Hello everybody and welcome back to another beer review. Today we have something very interesting. It is the Spencer Trappist Ale from Spencer, Massachusetts. This is going to be an interesting beer and I hope I don't ramble on about a bunch of stuff. So let's get started. St. Joseph's Abbey was founded in 1950 in Spencer, Massachusetts, and is home to one of 11 Trappist breweries in the world, and the only one in the United States. More on that later. Now what's key to remember here is that Spencer isn't even really a brewery per se, it's a monastery. Monks live and work there, and part of the way of life is that they are self-sufficient, and according to their website, monks are encouraged to be self-supportive and offer charitable assistance to others by producing and selling goods to the public. They first started out selling things like jams and preservatives, but then a brother expressed interest in brewing and the world tour began. 2 years were spent traveling the world, visiting other Trappist breweries, trying out recipes, and collecting data before a decision to open a brewery was eventually voted on by the monks and established in 2013. Man, these monks don't do things half-buttocks. Alrighty, so let's look at this thing. It's a golden caramel color. It's trube. It's not filtered, so it's a very foggy type of beer. No head really on this thing. You are getting a little bit of that Belgian yeast type of a smell, that kind of a sour banana pear type, but it's not bad. Not bad. Let's try it out. It's hard for me to say, this typical Belgian yeast type of flavor because a lot of people don't know what that tastes like, but it is a little bit sour, a little bit fruity, a little bit, but it's not, in comparison to a lot of other Belgian beers that I've had, it is actually not quite as intense as a lot of those flavors. It's not bad, but the good part about this beer is not actually the taste of this beer, it is the history and what this beer represents, so let's get into that. So here's where you guys actually gonna have to put on your learning caps and bear with me for a second. So this beer, this guy right here, this is what is known as an authentic Trappist product. This is a Trappist beer. I think that some of you guys may not know what that means, and it is an extremely interesting and extremely long story, but I'm gonna try and keep this as short as possible, and just know that I'm gonna be scratching the surface on a lot of the topics that we're going to be discussing today. So let's delve right into the history of Trappistry and Trappist beer. So Trappists are a religious order. They're not a specific religion. It's kind of like the Amish. They believe in Christianity and they have their own interpretation of what that means. Just like the Amish ride horse and buggies, the Trappists, they also do things their own certain way. So back in 1664, the abbot of Trapp Abbey, he wasn't liking what was going on in the world, and he was a very conservative type of a dude, so he kind of wanted to bring back a lot of the traditional ways of life, and he established these rules called the strict observance. And so this was kind of the start of the Trappist movement and also of Trappist beer brewing. And back in those days, abbeys would brew beer out of necessity for two reasons. One, because back in those days, water wasn't really safe to drink, so beer was a necessity to actually get clean fluids in your body, and not just the monks that worked at the abbey, but everybody. So they would sell these beers to the people in the town so that they could have safe things to drink. And by selling their beer, they would actually earn money from this. So this would actually help fund the abbey. Things aren't free, as you might know, and abbeys cost a lot of money. So they would sell beer as well as other products in markets in the town and try and raise funds. And so this whole idea of kind of self-sufficiency, they brew beer, they sell it so that they can fund themselves. They didn't want to take handouts. They didn't want to have to accept donations. This whole idea of self-sufficiency is extremely important to Trappist monks. And it's even important today, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later, but they take it to an even more extreme level today, and again, we'll get into that in a sec. So let's fast forward to today. And at the actual moment, there's only 11 Trappist breweries worldwide. There used to be more, and in the last 300 years, there used to be 9 in France, there was 1 in Germany, even 1 in Bosnia.
This thing came from Bosnia, son. You ever been to Bosnia?
But because of the French Revolution, that pretty much closed down all of the French Trappist breweries, as well as a couple of world wars. These types of things don't really stand the test of time as well. But today, Belgium is actually the capital country of Trappist breweries. They have 6. The Netherlands has 2. Italy, Austria, and the US all have 1. Another reason for the decline in Trappist brewery numbers over the years could be accredited to a couple of lawsuits where in the 20th century, a lot of breweries actually liked this type of beer, this style of beer that these Trappist breweries would brew, and they would try and copy that. And they would put Trappist name on it as a marketing attempt to try and sell their beer. Trappist beer were associated with high quality. This actually didn't mean that the beers were actually Trappist beers according to these strict ordinances, which I talked about earlier. So in 1962, there was actually a lawsuit where some monks and some monasteries sued some other breweries and got the Trappist name removed from their labels. And that was, again, you could kind of associate that with the reduction in numbers of breweries actually brewing Trappist beer. Then in 1997, 8 different monasteries came together and they formed what was called the International Trappist Association, and they created a list of rules that beer had to be brewed by in order to get an official label on their beer, kind of like the German purity laws, except not as stupid. So they are as follows. Products which carry this label are produced within the walls of a monastery or in the vicinity of the monastery. So pretty much it's brewed with the monastery. Makes sense, right? Number 2, the monastic community determines the policies and provides the means of production. The whole process production must clearly evidence. In Queen's English, that means that the monastery is in complete control of the beer that is being brewed, as well as it is brewed in accordance with the monastic way of life. That means that God comes first, beer comes second. So the purpose of the monastery is not to brew beer, is to, do godly things. And the third rule, number 3, and one of my most favorite ones, the profits are primarily intended to provide for the need of the community or the social services. So what that means is that the breweries are not allowed to profit from this beer, and any extra monetary gains that they might have, they have to donate to charity. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, that means that drinking Trappist beer, you are donating money to charity and doing a good social deed. Giving has never tasted so good. So I talked about earlier how Belgium kind of has this stronghold on the Trappist breweries. However, just in the last 5 to 6 years, it's actually been the foreigners that have come into the game. The United States, Austria, Netherlands, and Italy have all established Trappist breweries in the last 5 years. So, and no Belgians in that time. So, over the last 300s, we've seen a decline in Trappist breweries up until 1997, where there was only about 8 of them, and then it's actually been inclining in numbers in the last couple of years. So let's talk about Spencer and what they got going on. So this is actually not the only beer that Spencer brews. As I talked about at the very beginning, there was a monk, there was a brother that came to the Abbey guy. I don't know the names of all these people, but pretty much he said, yeah, hey, yo, I want to brew some beer. And they did this 2-year-long tour, and they actually also brew other stuff, not just this one. So, whereas most of the other Trappist breweries brew like a double, triple, quadruple in these typical Belgian-style ales, Spencer doesn't do that exactly. They do offer a 9% ABV holiday ale. They offer a 10.2% quadruple Monk's Reserve ale. Yes, please, that sounds amazing. As well as 4 craft beers, including an Imperial Stout IPA, German Pilsner, and a festive lager. So Spencer, God is doing you guys good, man. I think he is giving you blessings and everything. I would really love to try some of their other stuff. This one is not bad. It's not the best Trappist that I've ever had. If you guys want a really good recommendation on a Trappist beer, try the Chimay Blue. This beer was actually gifted to me by my Uncle Dave, so hey, thanks Dave. The effort was maybe not quite so necessary because I actually ended up finding this in Aachen, but the thought is what counts, right? So cheers and thanks again, man. Coming down to the end of this guy, like I said, it's a pretty good beer. It might actually be a pretty good starter into Belgian styles in general because it's not quite as intense and it's not as high of alcohol content. This is a 6.5, which is a lot higher than a lot of American style beers, you know, at like 4 or 5%. But Belgian beers get strong and they get strong quickly. So if you guys are interested in trying out or stepping into Trappist and Belgian style beers, this one actually might be one of them for you. Pretty easy drinking, as you guys can see. I want to thank you guys. Give this thing a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time on Belay. Peace out.